First off, I want to thank everyone that's been following along my journey as a prospector. And it's been a while since I've made a video, partly because I've moved a couple times since my last video, and then I also lost some video footage with my computer and camera, things like that. So I've been prospecting maybe twice since my last video, but I lost that video footage. Anyway, I went prospecting about 2 weeks ago. I met up with Prospector Al, and have to excuse me if I get your name wrong, but I believe he goes by Wood Spirit is his name on the forums, and I think his name's Tim. So sorry if I got that wrong. It's been a while since I met you. But anyway, I met up with them, took one of my friends prospecting for the first time, and they did pretty good. I spent more time watching, trying to teach my friend how to pan, things like that. But I had a good time. It was good to be back out, and these are the concentrates that I ended up with. Some right there, a little bit larger stuff right there. I just use this screen to I think it's about 20 mesh screen. Anyway, since I can't go out prospecting a whole lot, I decided to do another do-it-yourself project and just combine the video, because I did not get much video while we were out there panning. Anyway, here's what I started a couple weeks ago. It's the beginnings of a Miller table. I've yet to fine-tune it, but I'm going to show it here. It started out as a sheet of plywood, and I wanted to do a free build, meaning using stuff that was in my garage. I did not want to use have to go out and buy anything. It seems like all my do-it-yourself projects start adding up in cost. And anyway, I had a piece of plywood that was about 25 inches long and probably about that wide as well. And I started doing some research on the internet on how to build a Miller table. And there's some really good books out there, like an ebook somebody put together, really good. If you want to do it right the first time, just follow their plans. I didn't have everything to do it with, so I decided to do it my own way, and which is usually not the right way. But here's what I came up with. It is, I think it's 12 inches and 12 and an eighth inches wide. I've painted it with just some black paint, and I have created this little dam for it, and it butts up to the blocks there that I have glued on. This whole thing is just really cheap 1/2 inch plywood. I wouldn't recommend using this. I would buy a high grade plywood, probably a hardwood plywood, if I was doing this project over. But again, I wanted to do it with stuff that was already in my garage. I've got some clamps over here that held it in place, and you can adjust how high or low you want it. And I was running it with a hose pipe, and I found out that even though that I had this dam set up on it, the hose pipe jetting water into it still influenced the water that was coming out of it. So I guess the only alternative would be to cut this dam lower and make it flush with the bottom, and then have the water run over the top, is one way that you could do it. But the ebook that I was reading recommended use PVC pipe. So you take a PVC pipe, and there's some good advice on there about how to make the holes. And right now it's not a permanent setup. It is everything's kind of pressed together, because I'm waiting on my recirculating pump. So I'm waiting on that pump that I used in one of my other videos. I just don't have it handy right now. But I did run this last night on a hose pipe, and I told you earlier that I've tried to shoot this video several times. I ran out of daylight shooting the video yesterday, but I still have what I processed. I'll show you that in a minute. But anyway, yeah, here it is. It came out pretty good. I did end up putting a little bit of money in this project. I bought a green mat that I'll show you in a minute. The mat came from Hobby Lobby. I can't remember the brand. People mention using the Hobbyco mat. It's not one of those. It's a little bit different. But it was $9.99 in the crafts section, I believe is where it came from. It's 18 inches long by 12 inches wide. So it turned out perfect that I made this a little bit wider than 12 inches because the mat fits right in place, and then I used the clamps to hold it in place. So I'll show you that in a minute when I get this thing set up. And I do have a little hose here that I'm gonna have to redirect any overflow water out because I do not have it set up as a recirculator, which I will in a couple weeks. Another idea that I had was an auto feeder. So I made this little bracket out of some of the extra plywood, and it is going to clamp on the side here. And then I was trying to think what would be a good idea for a tub, and I decided that a milk jug, because it has kind of the natural V, I think you can see it there, it has a natural V already built into it. The slope is perfect because it's sloped down, so if you held it flat it would still have that downward slope. And I just drilled a hole in it. This is still a work in progress. I do have a tiny fountain pump. This little bitty pump, it's adjustable. There's the adjustable side of it, and it pumps up to 50 gallons an hour. I've got this small hose. I was either going to put the hose in the end of it, or the hose fits nicely right down through the handle, so I could put my concentrates in and then have it sitting up. But here's a better view of the table. It started out 24 inches long, and I cut it down after I bought the mat to where it's just maybe 1 or 2 inches past the mat. You can see it's not very good wood. I've just painted it with a latex paint, and I used waterproof wood glue. I think it's called Type Bond 3, and I just clamped it. I think the water dropped down about this top 2 inches, and then you can start seeing a line of gold. I guess that's about 3 inches down, and this is an 18-inch long mat. So there's where the gold starts, and it goes down to, I think the last pieces of gold I'm seeing are right here, which is maybe about 4 or 5 inches from the end. So that's a pretty good sign there, because I really didn't have this set up right. I just have a little paintbrush that I've trimmed up, and I'm going to try to sweep up the gold and see if I can get it into a pile. But I wanted to show you where the gold started and where it stopped on this Miller table so far, and that's without any fine tuning to it yet. Okay, so everything's set up and running. I even hooked up the auto feeder to show you. It's hard to see, but the water's coming down each individual hole, and it's creating a nice little glass surface. So here's the mat. There's my level. I made sure everything was level, and I'm just gonna slide my mat in place here. Shaking around a lot, but I know some people might find this information useful. So here's a little scoop of my concentrates. I'm gonna add it to the auto feeder here and see what happens. Oh, it looks to me like it's dropping it down on the table. See what's happening here. Don't know if there's any gold in it or not yet. That's a little piece. I'm gonna add a little bit to the side here as well, just so you can see. There's a little bit of so looks like I could probably boost the water level up. See, it kind of stopped it. I probably fed the material too heavy in that one spot, but I definitely had the water speed a lot higher last night. There you go, you can see it busting down and starting to pick back up. the water flow across the table. And this is where it's nice to have a brush you can take and you can kind of fan the material out, get the water flow going again. Material across there. If you're afraid your gold's going too far down the table, you can sweep it back up, whatever. So yeah, there's the Miller table in action with the auto feeder. Not a recirculator yet. I'll give you a different view. There. There's the gold.